We begin tonight with the dynamic CEO of Advent Software, the founder and CEO. She took it from startup in 1983 to more than 700 employees and several thousand clients around the world. Stephanie DiMarco, welcome to the program.
Thank you.
It is quite a story. I mean, if you go to your website to see what you offer, who you serve, and so on, and realize that you began in the financial services area, and then here we are today. Okay. Now let's first of all do a kind of a snapshot of where we are today. Tell me about Advent real quickly.
Well, we're a provider of software services to very large financial institutions, as well as medium and small-sized asset managers and brokers. But some of the best-known names in the world and some of the best-known local names, like a Wells Fargo Bank or Silicon Valley, are all our customers. And we have a market capitalization. We're a public company of about $1.1 billion. We have 850 employees around the world.
It grew since last time I read last night. Okay.
It's grown. And about 850 employees around the world and offices around the world.
And how many here in San Francisco?
Here in San Francisco, it's our corporate headquarters, so it's about 550.
And how many? Thousands of clients?
Yes, over 4,500 clients.
But and now, you know, we're so far the viewer's saying, okay, I heard employees, I heard cap rate, but you got to get into the software. That's what I find intriguing, especially from my background. Tell us about what your software does and what makes it so unique.
Well, it's certainly not a household name that you would know. It's not a product that people use at home. It's an institutional product. So our customers are all financial institutions. They're businesses that manage money for other people. So they could be banks or brokerage firms or asset managers. And what our software do, I like to describe it as plumbing.
Okay.
It really is the plumbing that they run their business on. So it does all of their accounting and record keeping and SEC reporting and trade order management. So it's kind of software in the box for someone who wants to be in the asset management business.
And now you're doing international, so it does currency exchange
rates. Currencies and all kinds of structured securities.
You have a program, I guess, through some company you bought that has to do with giving, fundraising?
Yes.
A whole program just for fundraising?
Yes, we're the largest provider of software to foundations, philanthropic institutions that give away money.
And they take your software and they are able to track givers,
their gifts,
schedule, receive, receipt,
what they
taxes.
what they have to report to the IRS.
Now this is okay. We got a kind of an idea here. Okay, and believe me, it's just the tip of the iceberg after reading about your software and what it does. Okay, now here you are. You started in 1983. I want to go back to then. You're not a computer programmer?
No.
No, you're not a computer programmer, and it's called Advent Software.
Right.
But you are in the financial services area.
Yes, I was.
In 1983.
Yes, I was actually only 23 when I started the business, so I didn't have an illustrious career prior to that. But I was working for a small money manager, and I thought I wanted to be a portfolio manager. I was an analyst and tracking companies and making recommendations on what stocks for our customers to buy. And I was working with a colleague, and we didn't have any systems at this little firm. And so he and I got together and decided that we could really fix this problem for the company that we worked with. And so we together collaborated on building a computer program to run their office. And this was way in the dark ages of early PCs.
Now, you didn't write the program. You had someone write it for you.
Yes, I started the company with a colleague. His name's Steve Strand.
And he's the one who writes the code.
He's the one who wrote the code, although I have to admit I wrote a little bit of code.
Good.
But mostly I was the customer who understood the problem and explained what the requirements were and what we needed for the product to do.
All right, well, now that's simple enough there. But now where I'm trying to figure out is there's a point where you start to have an organization where people want to be part of it. The team building begins, and you start drawing quality people. When did that happen that you knew that you had something that people wanted to be part of, and now you start to grow rapidly?
Well, I always laugh and say it took us 7 years to become an overnight success because the first years were very, very difficult first of all, when we decided that we wanted to branch out on our own and start this company, we didn't have any money. And so I called up the richest person I knew and showed him a very flimsy business plan. And he wrote us a check for $50,000, and that was the total.
Angel one, huh?
Angel one, and angel total. So that was the that was the total capitalization.
That was the beginning.
That was the beginning.
And then the next step after that.
And then we just got to work and started cold calling. First, we had to write the program. That took about 8 months.
Right.
And then started cold calling money managers in the local area and around the country, and got people interested in buying our product. And kind of slowly, one by one, we took care of our customers. And at the same time, this was back in 1983, there were a couple of things happening. IBM every 6 months was coming out with a bigger, faster computer, and so microcomputers were really growing up. So we started out with these very basic machines that could only work with very small companies. So they were helping us out because Moore's law was in full force in those days. Microsoft was improving the software. Novell actually came out with local area networking. And then there was a fantastic bull market throughout the 80s and early 90s, and that contributed to startups in the asset management business, many of whom bought our software. So a bunch of things occurred sort of
at the right time.
At the right time.
Were you using, in other words, you had one program that you were basically the core program at that time. You were adapting it possibly, or was it right off the shelf that they could come in and just implement it? Did they need to have more code and more adaptations to their companies, these different asset managers?
It was mostly off the shelf, but we were always adding to it because it's a very dynamic industry with deep, complex requirements. So we were always enhancing it and coming out with the next version and the next version.
Now that's then. Now we're starting to see now the formation here. But now, again, keeping an eye on where you are right now, you have various programs now, I imagine, that cater to the different segments. When did it start happening that you're now diversifying, you're bringing more people on to be able to now go beyond where you started in that asset management area?
Well, probably around the 8 or 9 year mark, I stopped worrying that we were going to go out of business, and I realized that we actually had quite a successful enterprise on our hands. And so I started to think more strategically about the business. How do we grow it? How do we leverage what we have, as opposed to how do we keep the doors open and keep everyone paid? And so that was a real shift. That was a real emotional shift for me. And I actually went out and raised some institutional capital from a venture firm to get more experience with institutional capital and also to bring some people on our board. And so I started to think about it less as this was a hobby and this is really going to be a serious business. So it was probably around that time that we brought in people that could develop other products that we could also sell to our customers.
And did you ever have a problem of that entrepreneurs have of delegating? Did you have to let go of things and just give complete segments over to people and trust them?
I don't have a problem delegating as long as I have confidence in the person I'm delegating to.
Once you make that decision.
Yes, and I have a really capable team, and so that's really enabled me to get very comfortable. I'm a pretty detail-oriented person, though. So today, we're a public company. We went public in 1995. There's way too many details for me to be involved with, and so I have really competent people who take care of those.
So where are you going to go now with this? Where do you want to take it next?
Well, I think that companies go through life cycles where you reach inflection points. And today, this company, I look at our market opportunity and how big the market is. The financial services and wealth management market is vast, and it's also growing significantly on a worldwide basis. So I think we have the opportunity to be the SAP for the financial services industry. Well, I'm glad you brought that
up. SAP or Oracle, you'd be a prime. They like to devour little companies like yours, as you know. I mean, that's the kind of thing they do too. I mean, they tailor business applications and stuff.
They do, although they're in fewer vertical markets. We're real narrow vertical. They're in broader markets, but certainly, we would.
You're not competing with them, in other words.
We don't compete with them. No.
Do you have some competitors?
Oh, absolutely. It's very competitive.
And you all know each other. And how many of them are women owned?
Oh, none.
Right. It's a
very Wall Street It's
okay.
a very Wall Street kind of company.
Now, you've been honored. The Haas School, where you went to the University of California, they honored you as, I think, Business Leader of the Year a couple of years ago, and you've won other awards. I mean, it is kind of remarkable. Do you ever look at yourself and ask yourself, do you see yourself as that unusual? But when you go to these bargaining tables or when you talk to other CEOs, they're probably male. What do you?
Yes, I think the majority.
You're one of the few in the software, the very cutthroat software, business software field, aren't you?
Carol Bartz was certainly, she's retired now from Autodesk, but
Autodesk,
very notable software CEO.
But it's not
a very big
How
club.
do you explain this? You seem like a wonderful person, but you can be tough if you have to, right? I mean,
absolutely. Yeah.
Because it's a tough business.
It is a tough business, yeah.
Why you? Why do you think you decided to go into this area? You think it was your destiny or something you wanted to always do?
I figured out pretty early on that that I wanted to work for myself and have control over my own destiny. I had a few experiences interviewing as a young person in Wall Street type firms where I was asked how fast I could type, and
1983.
Yeah, and it was pretty clear to me that the world wasn't necessarily fair. So I felt if I had control over my destiny, to the extent that I was successful, nobody would have a limit on what I could do.
Remember that. Let's remember, this is the early 80s, this whole dot-com boom thing. As you said, it was a P90, a Pentium 90, if I remember, or worse.
Yeah.
90 megahertz.
Mm-hmm.
I mean,
10 megabyte hard disks were the.
I mean, this was not the, this wasn't the going thing for women and anyone to be an entrepreneur and think they can raise money and start a company. It was all dominated by large corporations.
Right, and mostly hardware companies. That was what
they had a market.
That was more dominant than small software companies.
Well, it's quite a story. And you like San Francisco, despite all the things we bring in on this program of restrictions and taxes and regulations, you still like working here.
Yeah, it's not the easiest city to do business with, but I was born and raised here, so I'm a native, and so it was a very natural choice for me.
It's hard to leave San Francisco, isn't it, when you're a native?
It is hard, and actually I think it's an advantage for us because so many of our customers are in the largest financial centers, New York, Boston, and London, and so many of our competitors are. And I think in the early days it was easy for competitors to dismiss this little tiny San Francisco company run by a little girl.
Huh?
Yeah, we were kind of under the radar.
It's a remarkable story, Stephanie. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Stephanie DiMarco from Advent Software. And stay with us. We'll be back with Professor Levine.